This is the BeaverCraft carving hatchet. I've had this for several months now, and I've used it quite a bit in carving, of course, because that's what it is. For a unique hatchet, I have some good to say and some bad to say about it, but I don't think any of this is going to be really that surprising to anybody who knows much about hatchets, carving, and this kind of gear, or knows the brand BeaverCraft. So one way or another, let me jump into it. I just got done hammering out another blank. I know this doesn't have much form, but it will. I've done quite a few, I'd say several hundred spoons, a lot more than most people would make because I used to sell them. So I'm practicing a form for something new. I always practice on poplar because it's so easy on my blades to carve with, and I'll get a form in poplar, then I'll switch over to birch, and then maybe some other hardwoods. If I have dried wood sitting around that I have to carve, then I'll move to that after I kind of got the practice down. And I've been using exclusively this blade lately, this hatchet rather. Been using this to make the forms and make about everything that I've done, even a little bit of splitting and delimbing and some normal hatchet work as well around a campsite. So I'm going to start with the handle. I'm going to talk about how it's set, and then I will talk about the blade. First of all, the ergonomics of the handle are pretty good. It's decent grain. It's not the best, but it is decent grain. It looks aesthetically pretty nice. It has a little bit of a flare, and I find that the flare is functional, although there's a lot of weight and a lot of mass up here because it's a broad head. So comfort-wise, it's fine. It's not going to be as good as a lot of other hatchets where the weight distribution feels a little more natural. This is better for a particular task like shaping, carving, and that sort of thing, and it just lends itself better for that. But there's enough length here where you can do some delimbing, you could do a little bit of splitting, and I think it'll hold up reasonably well for that, even though it's not a super steel. So there's the handle. I haven't had any misses, which is really surprising. Sometimes you can have a little bit of a miss on accident, especially with longer style hatchets or axes really. But it's held up, hasn't cracked, even though, and here's a bad thing, take a look at how this thing is set. So the wedge and the gap, look at that gap. That is pretty atrocious. This is the worst gap I've ever had on any hatchet or axe ever, including like $10, handles and hatchets that I've gotten at Fleet Farm or Menards or something like that. Just not impressed. But maybe I am impressed with the fact that it hasn't moved. In all the chopping I've done, it did stay stationary, and that says something. It's done well enough that it won't move on me just yet. Will it eventually move? I'm not sure. But it doesn't make me comfortable to see how much of a gap there is on the front, and only the wedge is really making contact. I've measured this out. I stuck a punch down there to see how deep it goes, and it goes down. That gap goes down about this far. There's a lot of material missing on the top there, and it doesn't seem to fill up the top of the head very well, and I'm really disappointed to see that. Even at the price point, it should have been done better. But, as I just said, it hasn't loosened up on me, and I've done a lot of chopping with it. Something else that kind of concerns me is they tried to use wood glue to cover up some cracks. So there are cracks in that head. It did split a couple different ways, and there's wood glue and sawdust compound mixed together to fill in a lot of cracks that I saw here. It's just been mixed in, puttied up, and I mean, that's fine when I do it, because if I do a bad job, it's on me. But when you purchase something and it's already got cracks in it, that's not a good sign. And right here, you might not be able to see it really well. Let me see if I can zoom in. You can see a little bit of, oh geez, there we go. You can see a little bit of the crack right there. There's wood glue filling it. It is just not done well. Let's see if I can keep this in frame. It's just not done well. That's an ugly set. And that's a pretty bad crack. That's one thing that concerns me about the brand. Is this common? I don't know. I've only had one hatchet from them. I've only seen a few of their blades in hand. I know that Dutch Bushcraft knives, and a couple other people have collaborated with them. They've done some cool things. I kind of like the company. I like the direction they're going. I wish they would use 1095 instead of weak steel, but I'm just going to say I'm not super content with the fit and finish on my personal product. I just think that's weak in general. Now let's talk about the head. The shape is really cool. I think the shape is unique, but still has some of the classic lines that I expect to see. The hammer face on it is usable. It's been functional. I use it all the time. If I don't want to cut a limb off, I'll break it off with the hammer. I've set nails with it, pounded steel with it, a lot of wood. I've used it for just bruising wood or breaking things up, and it works just like it should. So well done there. Like I said, it hasn't loosened up even after all that hammering on it. Now the actual face is pretty wide. That's a good thing for carving because it gives you lots of surface area. It's got a kind of a real wide bend to it. And there's also a decent cutout for your fingers to get up on. So if you're going to do finer cutting and get your hands up there, sometimes I do slicing when I go up to my stop cuts so I don't over penetrate or over cut. And this is one way that you can do that, is giving it a good relief under the blade. The hook on it is pretty aggressive and it works well. The top of the blade, it came a little dull. And typically I've had my blades really sharp on the bottom and a little duller on top. And this one was that way from the factory, relatively dull, not like a true Scandi or anything. It's just generally useful for carving, but I did feel the need to touch it up right away from the factory, and it's not even. If I go between the two sides, I actually find that the grind lines and the bevels are not consistent between the two. It is fairly convexed. It's not horribly thick. I'll try to do this here. It's not horribly thick, but it's not as thin as I like. And my S-Twing hatchets that I've worked on for a long time, even from the factory, the S-Twing hatchets tend to be a little thinner and better for hatchet work, in my opinion, than what I'm looking at here. But this has more potential, in my opinion, than the S-Twing hatchets do. I think I could do better and more carving with this because of the design of the blade edge and the sweep. I can do more slicey cuts with it. I can do more spoon craft with it. And when it comes to crafting, this is the design that most people are going to want to go with. And I'm included in that, not just because it's traditional and looks traditional, but because functionally I actually find some value in this blade shape. I just wish it was a little bit more uniform, and I wish the coating didn't look so terrible. The coating on the blade kind of looks like crap, to be honest with you. It's like partially chunky in different places. It doesn't look very consistent, and it wears kind of ugly. So I have thought about taking this head off at a certain point and just redoing the whole thing, stripping off any coating I could, wire brushing the whole thing, and then doing it myself, which, at this price point, I've done stuff like that before for hatchets and tomahawks, and that's fine. I don't really mind doing it if I have to. I just wish I didn't really have to. Sharpness from the factory was barely sufficient. I would say almost insufficient. I will be reprofiling the actual, not just the edge, but the first initial grind here. I'm going to be thinning this out a little more. I'm going to make it a little longer. When it comes to hardwoods, this is fine because this is a relatively soft steel, and having a little bit thicker face on it is better for hardwoods. It doesn't penetrate as deep, but it also doesn't dull as fast. It's a little more robust. It doesn't bend as easy. But when you're cutting softwoods like poplar, what I showed you earlier, you can actually survive having a little bit thinner edge, even with softer steel, and a thinner profile overall than what I saw with this from the factory. It's acceptable. It's not really uniform at the tips, and it's like one side will be a little thicker than the other, more than likely. If I can get this to focus. One side's a little thicker than the other, and that's kind of what I expected at the price point. That's kind of what I expected with BeaverCraft, because I think this is a work in progress kind of company. They're improving and they're trying to bring in a really good price point, which they do. So obviously the majority of the time, this is for shaping. And so I'm doing big cuts with it. I'm doing chops with it, stop cuts, like doing the stop cuts in the neck here. It's going to be really hard to do much more than this with the hatchet. I didn't do the bowl with the hatchet. I did the bowl with Amora. I can't remember which one this is, 162. I don't know. I've modified it. It's sharp on both sides. I took away the bevels. But so I used my Mora for the bowl and then everything else with the hatchet. And it's thin enough that I could do some of the detail work. So when you get to like trying to do the diamond on top, the only thing that makes me a little nervous is this is a weak wood. It's kind of soft and I don't have a cutting glove on. And this isn't crazy sharp. If it was crazy sharp, then it would slide into the wood a little better. The nice thing is it has a big face on it, so I can slice these cuts like this right here. And I can get a nice flat plane. And honestly, I don't think that's too bad to do with a hatchet. It's a little more work than using a knife. But I was able to profile this down pretty well. And I can get nice slicey cuts through here. I don't have a lot left to take off the top. This isn't going to be a keeper spoon. I'm going to leave this out here for someone else to find and mess around with. But you can do quite a bit with a carving hatchet. And that's a good test of how much dexterity does it give you, how much controllability does it give you. And I was able to use this and plant it against the chair ahead of me and kind of run this, scraping off the top and get these nice smooth cuts like that. I can get up very close because of the choke up point here, and I can slice the wood away, which is what I have to do for safety. I can't really just push on it because of the thickness of the edge on this guy, but it actually doesn't look terribly bad. It kind of gave me an idea. The main thing I even wanted to practice in the first place wasn't the spoon. I've made a bajillion spoons. What I wanted to practice was if I could leave bark on for a future model and leave the bark on the face of the diamond. I've never done one where I left the bark on the face of a diamond before. I think I will try that sometime in the future. But of course, I'm going to use knives for that. This is just a test to see how much I could get done with the hatchet, how comfortable it is, how sharp is it. I probably am ready to actually start reprofiling this thing a little bit. I've kind of learned enough about the blade, and I'm happy enough to start hitting that edge and making it my own a little more. But here's just, get that last thread off there. Here's just kind of a basic spoon. It'd be fine if I was on a trip to mess around with. And if I forgot a utensil, I could do something with it. You can do a lot of shaping with a hatchet like this. They're more capable than people realize. You can feather stick really well with them. I'm going to grab this feather from before. So here's a feather that I did on a piece of hardwood. It's kind of convex, so it actually feathers really nice if you find the right straight piece of wood. Did really good there. I don't have a piece sitting in front of me, but I was splitting this hardwood earlier. Single strikes, just right down the middle with the other pieces over there. So I think it's actually a pretty decent hatchet. Here's some of my closing thoughts. Do I recommend it? Actually, yes, I do. I know it's not perfect, but it does come with some awesome extras. It's got a nice mask. This is one of the nicer masks I've had. And at the price point, I didn't expect, quite such a decent one. Really nice button, decent stitching, and a good thickness to the leather overall. And not just that, but it also comes with a branded belt loop. And I don't have to have the BeaverCraft brand on everything. That's maybe just a heads up for BeaverCraft. You don't have to put your brand on everything. It doesn't have to be quite so big. But this is really nice, high quality as well. And it's another extra. At the price, I didn't expect it to perform as well as it did. I did expect to have some sort of grievances or frustrations. The head is concerning, and I really hope that's not consistent with other people. I hope it's just me. But I think these, and the brand as a whole, are going the right direction. I think they're unique. They do provide things that you're not going to get from other brands, probably at a better price point. So as much as I complain about some of the deficiencies of the product is probably still worth it, and I have a lot of fun with it, and I think it'll only get better with time as I customize it, which is kind of the point of something like this. If you like this video, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, comment down below if you agree, or if you think I'm a big dummy. You can tell me down in the comments. I would love to hear about it. But that's just my experience with it so far. And like I said, I do recommend it, and I'm going to keep using it.